Have you ever wondered if the fortune you seek has never been lost, but only hidden, waiting in the silent chambers of your own mind for you to claim it? In the quiet theater of your imagination lies the vault of all creation. The wealth you believe is somewhere out there has always been here, within. When you understand that wealth, money manifestation, and the wealth awakening technique are not about reaching outward, but awakening inward, you step into the timeless truth that you can unlock forgotten riches at will. Through the law of assumption wealth, you no longer beg for riches. You embody them. The moment you saturate your mind with the conviction of possession, the outer world obeys. This is how it reveals itself. By knowing that to manifest money fast, you do not chase the coin. You assume the state of abundance until the imagination creates wealth. To attract abundance, Neville Goddard style, is to live already in the end, to dwell in the scene where you have already manifest riches technique into reality. You see, all wealth is consciousness, and all consciousness can be shaped. The hidden law works not through toil, but through alignment. The wealth manifestation secrets are not whispered by the banks, but by the silence of your own inner speech. Your subconscious money beliefs either open the floodgates or close them entirely. That is why abundance mindset training is not an exercise in positive thinking, but a deliberate act of re-identification. You do not earn wealth, you become wealth. In the realm of the inner man, you may reprogram subconscious for wealth until every thought echoes the truth of your inheritance. The moment this shift is complete, the outer world has no choice but to rearrange itself to match the inner decree. It is the spiritual prosperity laws that govern this, immutable, impartial, and exact. When your wealth consciousness shift is sincere, you stop measuring abundance by the balance in your account and start measuring it by the fullness of your inner certainty. The rivers of supply begin to flow, opportunities arise from unseen channels, and doors swing open as though moved by invisible hands. This is biblical money manifestation, not superstition but law. The forgotten riches you seek have never been far. They have only awaited your awakening. Wealth is not the sum of gold coins, the stack of paper in a vault, or the digits on a screen. Wealth is first and foremost a state of consciousness. Until you grasp this, you will forever be at the mercy of circumstances, chasing after an effect while ignoring the cause. The world you see, touch, and experience is nothing more than the reflection of the inner state you have most fully accepted as true. This means that every fortune ever attained, every empire ever built, and every treasure ever uncovered began in the invisible realm of thought and feeling. Before there was land to claim or contracts to sign, there was a man or woman who inwardly assumed themselves to be in possession of abundance. The outer world could do nothing but yield to that inner decree. Most are taught that wealth is a matter of labor, opportunity, or luck. They work harder, network more, or wait for some fateful turn to bring them prosperity. But the truth is far more subtle and far more liberating. Outer wealth is simply the shadow cast by an inner awareness of wealth. You cannot escape your inner assumptions. If you live with a deep-seated sense of lack, no amount of effort will permanently free you from financial struggle. On the other hand, if you dwell in the conviction of abundance, even the most unlikely channels will open to bring you supply. Life is compelled to mirror the state you embody, not the one you merely wish for. Think for a moment about the soil of the earth. It does not decide what seeds are worthy of growth. It simply accepts whatever is planted and nurtures it without judgment. The consciousness operates in the same way. If you continually plant seeds of poverty, worry, and limitation through your thoughts and feelings, the soil of your inner world will faithfully bring forth circumstances that match. If you instead plant seeds of wealth, ease, and security, those too will take root and express themselves in tangible form. The soil has no preference. It responds with precision to what is sound. Wealth consciousness is not built overnight, for it often requires the unlearning of years of scarcity thinking. This is why it is essential to monitor the conversations you have within yourself. Every mental rehearsal of, "I can't afford that," or "I'll never get ahead," is a silent affirmation of lack, and the subconscious accepts it as instruction. But when you begin to replace those inner statements with images and feelings of already having enough, more than enough, you are issuing a new command to the unseen forces that govern your life. These commands are not made with desperation, but with certainty, as though what you desire is already here. You must understand that consciousness is creative. Whatever you are most aware of being, you will inevitably express. This is why someone who has achieved wealth, but still clings inwardly to a belief in insecurity, will soon find their riches slipping away. Their outer reality cannot sustain a state that is not firmly held within. Conversely, those who have nothing in the material sense, but possess a rich, expansive consciousness will, in time, attract every form of wealth to themselves. Their outer life cannot resist conforming to their inner conviction. When you begin to operate from a wealth state of mind, you are no longer moved by appearances. You stop reacting to the current balance in your account or the conditions of the market, because you know these are simply the residue of past states. They are temporary and powerless to define your future unless you allow them to. In this freedom, you take your attention away from what is and place it on what is to be. You give your inner vision more reality than the evidence of your senses. The practice is simple yet profound. Withdraw into your inner world. Picture yourself living in the ease and security you desire, and feel the naturalness of it. Let the emotion of ownership fill you until it becomes second nature. You do not plead for wealth, you inhabit it. You walk, speak, and think as one who already has it, and in doing so, you set in motion the laws that must bring it forth. This is not wishful thinking. It is the disciplined choice to let your consciousness become the mold into which life pours its substance. Wealth, in its truest form, is the awareness of sufficiency and expansion. It is the knowing that all you require for your fulfillment is already within, waiting for your recognition. When you live from this awareness, you discover that opportunities arrive without struggle, that resources gather themselves to you, and that doors open of their own accord. You are no longer a beggar at the gate of life. You are the master of the house, deciding which rooms to open and which treasures to display. Everything begins and ends with the state you occupy. Hold fast to the consciousness of wealth, and wealth in all its forms will hold fast to you. Assumption is the quiet architect of reality, the invisible hand that shapes events, circumstances, and outcomes. To assume something is not merely to wish for it or to entertain it as a possibility. It is to accept it as a present fact, regardless of whether the outer world currently agrees. The act of assumption is the act of creation. For all things that appear in the visible world are first conceived in the unseen realm of thought and feeling. You cannot bring forth anything you have not inwardly agreed to possess. What you hold as true within yourself, you inevitably encounter in your external life. When you take on an assumption, you clothe yourself in an inner identity that demands expression. It does not matter if the evidence surrounding you is entirely contrary. Evidence is nothing more than the shadow of past assumptions. The shadow is powerless to dictate the new form unless you allow your attention to remain fixed on it. To live by assumption is to place the power of your focus upon the desired outcome and to persist until it feels more natural than the former state. Once an assumption becomes natural to you, it moves from conscious effort into subconscious acceptance. And from there, manifestation is certain. This is why one can live in the midst of lack and still radiate the reality of abundance. The assumption overrides the current appearance, and life is compelled to rearrange itself to support it. Think of the actor who dons a costume and steps into a role. As long as he wears the costume and inhabits the character, all his expressions, speech, and movements align with that identity. In the same way, when you assume wealth, health, or success, your inner and outer behavior unconsciously adapt to fit that state. People, opportunities, and circumstances begin to interact with you based on the role you have taken inwardly. Assumption works because the subconscious does not question. It accepts. It does not argue over whether your claim is possible. It simply receives the feeling and image you present to it and works tirelessly to produce it in the external world. Your task is not to figure out how it will happen, but to maintain the inner state until the how takes care of itself. This requires discipline, for the senses will tempt you to judge by appearances. But appearances are transient. They are like the final flickers of a candle before it burns out, a residue of an old state, soon to be replaced by the new one you have chosen. To assume possession is to live as though the wish is already fulfilled. It is to think from the place of completion rather than about it. Thinking about something keeps it in the realm of possibility. Thinking from it brings it into the realm of fact. If you desire wealth, you must move beyond imagining what it would be like to have it and begin to think and act as though it is already yours. This does not mean reckless spending or false display. It means adopting the calm, secure, and generous mindset of one who knows their needs are already met. Your assumptions set the tone of your life in the same way that a tuning fork sets the tone for a whole orchestra. Once struck, it vibrates, and all that can respond to that vibration begins to resonate in harmony. If your assumption is one of limitation, you will draw to yourself experiences that confirm it. If your assumption is one of expansion, you will meet people and events that mirror that expansion. Life cannot contradict the song you are playing within yourself. Assumption is not a fleeting affirmation repeated without conviction. It is a steady, deliberate inhabiting of the state you wish to see. It is revisiting that state again and again, especially in moments when the outer world tempts you to doubt. When you wake in the morning, you return to it. When you drift to sleep at night, you immerse yourself in it. Over time, the line between imagined and real dissolves, and the assumption becomes the only reality you know. That is when the outer scene shifts, as naturally as night turns to day. Many live their entire lives reacting to what has already been assumed, never realizing they can change the script by changing their state. They ask for proof before they believe, not knowing that proof is simply the harvest of a prior belief. The law works in reverse to their thinking. Belief comes first, evidence comes after. To master assumption is to master the very mechanism by which life unfolds. You need not struggle to bend the world into shape. You need only bend your own inner acceptance into the shape of the desired outcome. Once you do, the world cannot resist conforming. The simplicity of this truth is its power. It requires no complex rituals, no dependence on others, no waiting for the right season. You can assume your desired state now, in this very moment, and if you persist, the invisible will become visible. Assumption is the seed, the soil, and the sun all at once, and your steadfast inner conviction is the water that brings it to life. What you assume to be true of yourself, you will, in due time, find to be true of your world. Your subconscious mind is the hidden scriptwriter of your life, quietly directing every scene without argument or resistance. While the conscious mind debates, questions, and measures, the subconscious accepts whatever is impressed upon it as the unquestionable truth. This is why your financial reality, more than any outer circumstance or market condition, is shaped by the beliefs you have allowed to take root within. These are your subconscious money beliefs, and they operate whether you are aware of them or not. They are the silent architects behind your every financial decision, the unseen law determining whether opportunities find you or pass you by. If, deep within, you hold the conviction that money is scarce, that wealth belongs only to the lucky or the ruthless, then every action you take will be colored by that belief. Even when you work hard, there will be an invisible ceiling to your progress. The subconscious does not care whether your beliefs are empowering or limiting. It only knows to bring them into form. When scarcity lives within, scarcity appears without. You may receive money, but it will slip away, for the inner pattern demands consistency. Conversely, if you believe, without effort, that money flows freely to you, that wealth is as natural as the air you breathe, then the subconscious sets about arranging the circumstances to match. Opportunities appear effortlessly. People extend their help, and resources seem to gather without strain. Changing the outer world without addressing these inner convictions is like repainting a wall while ignoring the cracks beneath. It may look improved for a moment, but the same structural weaknesses will soon show through. This is why lasting financial transformation must begin within, at the level of belief. It is here, in the fertile soil of the subconscious, that the seeds of wealth consciousness must be planted. But seeds will not take root if they are constantly uprooted by doubt. Once planted, they must be watered daily with mental images and emotional certainty. This is the essence of abundance mindset training. Not merely positive thinking, but the disciplined habit of saturating the mind with a vision of plenty until it becomes the only reality you know. To reprogram these beliefs, you must first observe them. Pay attention to the automatic thoughts that arise when you think about money. Do you feel tightness, unease, or fear? Do you think in terms of limits, of barely getting by? These reactions reveal the blueprint you are living from. By recognizing them without judgment, you gain the power to replace them. Every time the old belief speaks, answer it with a new one. Not in a forced or desperate way, but with calm certainty. Replace, "I can't afford it," with, "I choose how to use my abundant resources." Replace, "Money is hard to come by," with, "Money flows easily into my life." At first, these statements may feel unnatural, but with persistence, the subconscious begins to accept them. And when the subconscious accepts, the outer world responds. This work is deepened through wealth visualization exercises. These are not idle fantasies, but purposeful rehearsals of the life you desire. Imagine yourself engaging in transactions without worry, making decisions from a place of security, giving generously because you are overflowing. Feel the relief, the freedom, the joy that such a state brings. See the details, textures, colors, sounds, until the scene becomes alive in your mind. This is the language the subconscious understands, vivid imagery charged with genuine feeling. Meditation amplifies this process. In stillness, the noise of the outer world fades, and the inner imagery takes precedence. During money manifestation meditation, you are not trying to force wealth into being. You are dwelling in the consciousness of already having it. In that quiet state, the subconscious is open and receptive, taking your inner reality as fact. From that moment forward, it begins its work of externalizing it. The more you return to this state, the more natural it becomes, until the old beliefs lose their power entirely. This reprogramming does not merely change your feelings about money. It alters the frequency you radiate. People sense your security and are drawn to work with you. Opportunities that were previously invisible now stand out in sharp clarity. Decisions that once felt risky now feel inevitable. You move with the quiet confidence of one who knows they are supported by invisible supply. This is the transformation that occurs when the subconscious is aligned with abundance. Your thoughts, emotions, and actions operate in harmony, producing results without the strain and struggle that so many believe is necessary. Your financial reality will never rise above the level of your subconscious money beliefs. You may earn more, but if the inner conviction remains one of lack, your life will find ways to reduce the surplus until you are back within the bounds of your familiar state. But when that inner conviction is one of expansion and ease, even losses or setbacks become temporary detours, quickly corrected by the natural tendency of your state to restore abundance. The subconscious is always creating. Your only choice is whether it will create from limitation or from wealth. Visualization and meditation are not idle pastimes. They are deliberate acts of creation. They are the instruments through which the invisible is given shape, texture, and life before it ever takes form in the physical world. Every great transformation, whether of wealth, health, or circumstance, begins first as an image impressed upon the mind, sustained with feeling until the outer world cannot help but conform to it. The mind is both the stage and the script, and visualization is the rehearsal in which the play of your life is perfected before its performance on the world's stage. To visualize effectively is to move beyond vague daydreams and into purposeful creation. The scenes you form must be specific, alive, and infused with the emotions you would naturally feel if they were already true. If your desire is wealth, see yourself in the surroundings of wealth. Feel the texture of the fabrics. Hear the quiet hum of security. Notice the ease in your body as you make decisions from abundance rather than from lack. These mental rehearsals should be so vivid that the boundary between imagination and experience begins to dissolve. The subconscious accepts the image as fact and begins its work of producing the corresponding outer events. Meditation deepens this process by stilling the restless surface of the mind. In the noise of daily life, it is easy for your mental imagery to be scattered or diluted by conflicting thoughts. But in meditation, when the outer world recedes, the inner image stands alone, unchallenged. In this stillness, the subconscious is most receptive. When you enter a meditative state and hold your desired scene with unwavering attention, you are impressing it upon the deepest levels of your being. You are telling yourself, without words, that this is your reality now. And because the subconscious does not distinguish between the vividly imagined and the physically experienced, it accepts and begins to externalize that new reality. Wealth visualization exercises should be approached not as a chore, but as a privilege, a chance to dwell in the very state you wish to embody. Begin by relaxing the body and quieting the mind. Let the tensions of the day dissolve. Then, construct a short, simple scene that implies your desire is fulfilled. It could be signing a contract for a prosperous deal, hearing someone congratulate you on your financial success, or enjoying the freedom of making a generous gift without hesitation. See the scene as though you were living it, not as an observer watching from the outside. Use all your senses to make it real. The weight of the pen in your hand, the warmth of the handshake, the sound of your own laughter. Most importantly, feel the natural satisfaction of having your desire already met. The key is not to force the image but to relax into it, allowing it to unfold naturally. If your mind wanders, gently return to the scene. Over time, with repetition, the image becomes more vivid, more stable, and more emotionally charged. This emotional charge is what imprints the scene upon the subconscious. A cold, mechanical image will not move you. A living, breathing image infused with feeling will. Money manifestation meditation takes this further by creating a sustained state of abundance. In meditation, you can repeatedly return to the sensation of already having enough. More than enough. Feel the relief that comes with financial security, the confidence in your decisions, the ease with which you interact with others. Let gratitude well up within you, not for something hoped for, but for something already yours. This gratitude is not an act of politeness. It is the magnetic force that draws more of what you appreciate into your life. Through this consistent practice, your mind becomes accustomed to abundance as the norm. You begin to think, act, and decide from the state of already being wealthy. And the outer world organizes itself to reflect this state. The opportunities you once overlooked now catch your attention. You move with more confidence, and people respond to you differently. Even challenges are approached from a place of resourcefulness rather than fear, allowing you to turn them into stepping stones instead of obstacles. Visualization and meditation are not about escaping reality. They are about shaping it. You are not pretending to be someone you are not. You are rehearsing the truth of who you choose to be until it becomes your lived experience. The world outside is only a mirror, and by consistently presenting the mirror with a new image, you compel it to reflect a new form. In this way, wealth is not pursued but assumed, not begged for but embodied. By holding the inner vision with faith and persistence, you create the conditions for it to manifest naturally, without strain or struggle. The laws that govern prosperity are not whimsical, nor are they selective in whom they favor. They are fixed, impartial, and exact, operating with the same precision as gravity or the turning of the seasons. These spiritual prosperity laws respond not to pleading, effort, or the opinions of others, but solely to the state you occupy within yourself. They are the silent agreements woven into the fabric of reality, ensuring that what is planted in the mind will eventually be harvested in the world. Once understood and applied, these laws release you from the exhausting cycle of chasing results, for you come to see that outer conditions are only the shadows of inner states. Prosperity, in its truest form, is not the possession of things, but the awareness of sufficiency. The laws operate upon consciousness, not upon material form. If the state you embody is one of lack, the law must return to you conditions that match it. If your state is one of wealth and expansion, the law must return to you conditions that mirror that abundance. It cannot do otherwise, for the outer world is bound to reflect the inner cause. There is no favoritism here, only the exact reproduction of what is impressed upon the unseen. This is why so many who work tirelessly still find themselves in struggle. Their effort is immense, but their inner conviction remains one of insufficiency. The law is unmoved by toil. It answers only to belief. To stand in a field and sow weeds while demanding a harvest of wheat is to misunderstand the unbending nature of this principle. You cannot plant thoughts of fear, doubt, and limitation and expect a yield of prosperity. The seeds determine the harvest, and the seeds are your persistent thoughts and feelings. These laws are spiritual in nature because they originate beyond the visible, in the realm of cause. They do not require the cooperation of other people, for they move through countless channels to bring your assumption into form. You may believe that a raise, an inheritance, or a specific investment is the only way for wealth to come. But the law is not confined to your reasoning. It knows infinite ways to fulfill the pattern you have set within. When you hold the consciousness of abundance, the law begins its work quietly, weaving connections, aligning events, and presenting opportunities that the rational mind could never have planned. The impartiality of these laws is both their greatest challenge and their greatest gift. They will reflect a state of poverty as faithfully as they will reflect a state of wealth. There is no moral judgment involved, only pure correspondence. This is why awareness is so essential. Without awareness, you may unknowingly hold states of fear and limitation, allowing the law to produce more of the same. With awareness, you can deliberately choose the state you wish to see expressed, knowing that the law must respond. When applied consciously, these laws make struggle unnecessary. The moment you shift your inner state to match the outcome you desire, the law begins to arrange the outer world to align with it. This is not always instantaneous, but it is inevitable. Just as a seed takes time to sprout, grow, and bear fruit, Your inner assumption requires persistence until it becomes the natural tone of your being. Doubt uproots the seed, while consistency nourishes it. The law is constant, but it will only deliver the harvest of the seeds you have allowed to mature. The beauty of these spiritual prosperity laws is that they work equally for all, regardless of background, current circumstances, or past mistakes. The moment you occupy the state of wealth, you step into alignment with the law that produces wealth. Your past no longer has authority over your present, because the law responds to what you are being now, not to what you have been before. This is why transformation can happen so swiftly once the inner shift is genuine. The law does not need to untangle the past. It simply begins to express the present assumption. To live in harmony with these laws is to take full responsibility for your inner world. It is to cease blaming the economy, the actions of others, or the conditions of the market for your financial state, and instead to understand that these are only effects. When you stop wrestling with effects and begin shaping causes, the outer world changes without resistance. You no longer feel the need to force events, for you know the law is already at work. Your task is simply to remain in the state that aligns with your desired outcome, trusting the law to fulfill it in its own perfect way. When you undergo a genuine shift in wealth consciousness, the very foundation from which you view the world changes. You no longer measure abundance solely by numbers on a statement or the possessions in your home. Those are byproducts, temporary expressions of a deeper reality. True abundance is measured by the certainty within you, a calm knowing that your needs are met and will continue to be met, regardless of appearances. This certainty becomes the atmosphere in which you live, and it radiates from you in ways both subtle and profound. As this shift takes root, your inner state becomes the governing force of your life, not the outer events. A person without this shift is easily swayed by every fluctuation of the market, every unexpected expense, every headline that predicts scarcity. But one who has undergone the change sees those same fluctuations as passing clouds in a vast sky. They may acknowledge them, but they are not ruled by them. The inner tone of security remains, and the outer world eventually mirrors that steadiness. Opportunities begin to appear that once went unnoticed. It is not that they were absent before, it is that your old state could not perceive them. Your previous mindset may have filtered them out, dismissing them as too risky, too unrealistic, or simply invisible to your attention. But with a wealth consciousness, your perception sharpens. You begin to recognize possibilities in conversations, in small shifts in the environment, even in challenges that would have previously discouraged you. You start to see connections between people and ideas, and these connections lead to tangible openings for growth and prosperity. In this new state, your relationship with money itself transforms. Instead of seeing it as a scarce resource to be hoarded or anxiously guarded, you begin to see it as a current that flows to and through you. You no longer fear spending when it is aligned with your values, because you know it will return multiplied. This is not reckless indulgence. It is the quiet confidence of someone who trusts the continuous circulation of supply. The very energy you bring to financial decisions changes. Less hesitation, more clarity, less strain, more ease. People respond differently to you when you stand in this state. They sense your security, not as arrogance, but as an unshakable presence. This draws trust, cooperation, and respect. Those who live in fear of lack are often approached with demands or pity, but those who live in the conviction of plenty are approached with offers, opportunities, and partnerships. The outer response is a reflection of the inner signal you broadcast. Even adversity is met differently. Without a wealth consciousness, a financial setback can feel like confirmation of failure, causing panic or retreat. But with this shift, setbacks are simply temporary scenes in a much larger story. scenes that can even serve as stepping stones toward greater expansion. You approach them with resourcefulness rather than desperation, and in doing so, you often turn what could have been losses into gains. Perhaps the most striking aspect of this transformation is the disappearance of the constant mental conversation about money in terms of fear or lack. The background noise of "what if I lose it?" or "how will I get more?" fades away. In its place is a quiet, natural assumption of sufficiency. This frees mental and emotional energy for creative thinking, relationship building, and purposeful living. You are no longer enslaved by the question of survival. You are liberated to focus on expansion, contribution, and the enjoyment of life. This shift is not achieved by forcing yourself to think positively for a few minutes each day. It is the result of repeatedly dwelling in the inner feeling of abundance until it becomes your default state. This is why visualization, meditation, and the deliberate replacement of old beliefs are so vital. They are the tools through which you impress the new state upon your subconscious. As you persist, the old patterns lose their grip, and the new ones take root so deeply that they operate without conscious effort. In time, the distinction between trying to believe and knowing disappears. You no longer have to remind yourself that you are abundant. You simply are. And because the outer world cannot resist the pull of your inner state, conditions, people, and events align themselves to match. Money flows in from expected and unexpected channels. Support appears without struggle. The ease you feel within is mirrored by ease in your outer affairs. This is the inevitable outcome when wealth consciousness becomes your natural way of being. Life moves in harmony with the certainty you carry, and abundance becomes not a goal to be reached, but a reality to be lived. The journey to awaken wealth is not about chasing a distant treasure, but about remembering and reclaiming what has always been yours. The states you have explored, wealth as consciousness, the creative power of assumption, the transformation of subconscious money beliefs, the precision of visualization and meditation, the unbending nature of spiritual prosperity laws, and the profound shift in wealth consciousness are not separate techniques, but facets of the same truth. Everything begins within, and everything returns to the state you most persistently occupy. When you finally see that the outer world is only the mirror of your inner world, you stop wrestling with shadows. You turn your attention to shaping the cause rather than battling the effect. You cease asking if it will happen, for you know that the law cannot fail to reproduce what has been accepted in consciousness. The riches you once sought through effort and strain begin to arrive through alignment and certainty. As you live in the assumption of already possessing what you desire, the old patterns of fear and scarcity dissolve. The noise of worry fades, replaced by the quiet authority of knowing you are supported. Life begins to conspire on your behalf. Doors open without knocking. Opportunities present themselves without searching, and resources flow without strain. This is not luck. It is the inevitable fulfillment of the inner pattern you have claimed as your own. The forgotten riches you came seeking have never been lost. They have been here all along, waiting for the moment you would recognize them, accept them, and live from them. Now that you understand the laws and have taken ownership of your inner state, you no longer walk as a seeker, but as a possessor. You no longer wonder if abundance will come. You know it is already here. And from this knowing, the world shapes itself in the image of your wealth.